fire started in this area around here and quickly spread up through this way. And as it got a run uphill with the wind behind it, it spotted over into these areas here and taken a really fast run through this way. Mid-afternoon of Thursday when the fire danger reached extreme. The fire behaviour at the time was extremely erratic. It was actually crowning going downhill on the eastern slopes of that army camp area over here, so that indicates the intensity of the actual fire itself.
The fire started on Wednesday the 5th of October, about 1700 hours in the afternoon. Burnt through the night, and they wrapped up the IMT that they had in place then by about 0400 the following day. There wasn't any fire activity in the area then until about 1100 on the Thursday. When I talk throughout this today, I'll be talking talking about it as being the second day, when in actual fact it was like starting the whole fire again. That then burnt through the whole of the weekend till about Sunday PM when the fire was finally declared out. My involvement in the incident was mainly as incident controller on day 2 and day 3. The fire started or restarted again at 11 o'clock on day 2, and it was during those first 4 hours of that restart where we had most of our problems with communications and setting up the IMT itself. We made a decision earlier on to set up an IMT down the bottom of the foothills here, which was an area where we could see all of the fire area, and it allowed us a little bit of a staging area down the bottom of the hill. This proved really good up until about 1600 hours when we had reports of the fire spreading across the main road behind us. When the fire spread across the top of that ridge, we were having trouble getting to our sector commanders via radio, and we were having difficulty even getting them through to FireCom. So we were using mobile phones to do a lot of our work with our sector commanders, but again, that sort of thing was very, very difficult.
We turned out to a grass fire in the Gap area. I was driving the pump at the time. We arrived up at the house and noticed there was some other Qfes vehicles on site and saw a small grass fire going down the side of the hill. So we attacked the fire. Thought it was going to be a quick go in, knock this one out, and then survey the area, obviously just to check to see what else was on fire. We knew that there was a fire the night before, but we didn't know to the scale or how big that it had been. Acting Officer Mark Creer went over one other side and noticed that the fire was coming close to getting away over a fire break. He then proceeded with a blower to attempt there, radioed back to the other senior officers that were on site to access a 4 drives to try and knock it on the head going that way down the hill, because as he said on radio, if we don't get it here, it's going to get away, and as it did.
But it did jump a small break, and of course that's when our trouble started, because there was a lot of fuel around, and once it jumped that, it wasn't accessible by hose. We'd run out of hose, we couldn't get our hose to it, so we were trying to chase it with the 4-wheel drive vehicles, but by the time we got it there, it was away.
Firefighting crews in general did an excellent job, I think. They were chasing a fire that was progressing at a rapid rate, with embers dropping kilometres in front of where the actual fire was. We were being inundated on the site with calls from FireCom in relation to spot fires and houses being threatened, which made it really hard for us to keep track of vehicles.
During that time there was quite a lot of wildfire around. We had some additional staff, I believe, on those days to answer the excessive AAA calls that were coming in. We have a plan now that sort of only program days that we believe are going to be hectic in the room. Additional staff are brought back in. Also taking into consideration if the RFCC or Regional Fire Coordination Centre is operational, a FireCom officer is placed in that room as well to assist in the successful running of that room.
One of the concerns we had on the first day of this fire when it started to run from the coordination centre point of view was that we recognised too late in the day that we weren't supporting the operations point with enough people. we were asking people to give us information, and we didn't realise that they were that busy and weren't given enough support to give that information. So we recognise that now, that we need to staff with effective people at those operations or control points when these incidents are running. The use of the ground observer on I think it was about the Saturday, it was something that we've not done a lot of, mainly because we haven't had the people to do it. I think all the vehicles to allow them to get out and just get out and talk to the sector commanders, make sure everything's going well for them, what other resources do they need, physically face to face rather than over a radio. And we were able to give the sit reps back on their behalf to the IMT, and pretty much the ground observer was able to come back after doing a circuit every hour or 2 hours and be the eyes and ears for the incident management team and brief them what's going on. One of the things that we debated about probably for too long on the second or third day now was whether to set up a field incident management team or relocate back to one of our identified incident control centres. The decision we made was to go for a field setup, and that's great, and we made it work. In hindsight, when it got a bit windy, we thought, gee, we should have been back at our control centre. I don't think distance from the incident is really something that we need to concern about in those sort of decisions. It's what are the capabilities of our communications. And I think the limitations of our communication capabilities will determine how far away our incident control centre can be for that job.
So we set up a control point down the base of the hill, and we put in place an IMT. I was the incident controller. I had an operations officer, but at that early stage we didn't have a logs officer or a planning officer. And this proved to be one of the things that we probably didn't do very, very well in this incident, and that was understaffed during those first 4 hours. When the night shift came on, we were able to then communicate across where we were with the night shift, and things from then on day 3, 4 and 5 went extremely well. Some of the other areas where I think that we can improve would be the fact that we didn't really put a plan in place following the fire on the first night. And we'd been here for most of the night, as I said, till 0400. Realistically, what should have happened the next morning is we should have put some crews on standby, and we could have done some blackening out first up in the morning. Yeah, so certainly one weight of attack is certainly something that I think that we weren't good at, certainly on the second day. We had an opportunity early in the morning to put some crews on the ground, and that didn't happen. It certainly happened on day 3, 4 and 5, and we had task forces set up for that purpose and a number of crews available to be able to react to that. The other thing where I think we can make improvement on, and again it reflects to those first 4 hours or 5 hours of the second day, was that we didn't really have a good plan for the oncoming shift for that night. And we all know that we should have a plan in place for the night shift, but unfortunately, due to the fact that we didn't have enough staff at the IMT or the control point, we were unable to provide them with a very good plan. Yes, we had some sketchy details of what we wanted them to do, but it made their life difficult. From that day onwards, though, from 3, 4 and 5, the planning and the changeover process worked very, very well.